morning, everyone. So today in our readings, we're going to hear a few stories that just don't seem really fair. We'll hear about Jonah, who was asked by God to go to a city full of really bad people. And God wanted Jonah to help them change their ways to be better. And guess what? They listen to Jonah. So then they don't get punished. And Jonah actually is really upset about it. And then in our gospel, we'll hear a parable about a bunch of people who go to work in a vineyard. And even though all the people work different amounts throughout the day, they all get paid the same. So we need to figure out what is really fair, what's fair to us, and what's fair to God. So like I've mentioned before, I have a younger brother, Travis. And Travis and I are about 4 years apart. So we had very different experiences growing up. And there were lots of times where one of us thought things just weren't fair. So one example for Travis is when he was really little, we would always have matching Halloween costumes. And there weren't very many years that we had them, but he didn't get a whole lot of say in what these matching costumes were. And since I was older, I had a lot more input on what we did. So, for example, one year we were cheetahs. And cheetahs were my favorite animal growing up. So we know this wasn't Travis's idea, but since we were in the matching costume, since Mom made our costumes, he just kind of had to deal and be a cheetah that year. And on the other hand, there were lots of things that Travis got to do that I wasn't never allowed to do. Because if you're an older sibling, you know that sometimes you feel like the test child. So parents will put more restriction on you and then ease up on your younger siblings. So like Travis got to see PG-13 movies before I got to. He was younger when he went to his first one. My dad let him drive his truck more when he was learning to drive. And most notably, I never got the pets I asked for. But as soon as Travis wanted a cat, we got a cat. And being the oldest sibling is kind of like being the laborers who show up at the beginning of the day at the vineyard. You think you know what's fair and what should be expected of everyone else, but then some people come in later and it seems like they get to play by different rules and it just doesn't seem fair. And that's our first instinct when we hear this story, that it's not fair. Why do the people who did the least amount of work still get the same pay as those who did the most amount of work? But that's not the point of the story. Because let's think about it. Did the people who first showed up get any less than they deserved? No. Plus, we need to take a step back and think about it in a different way, different than wages and money. If we look at it as the love that God has for us, it changes the story. Because here's the thing, God loves all of us and loves us a lot. Some people do a lot of good things in the world, and it seems like God should love them more. But guess what? God loves each and every one of us just as much as God loves Mother Teresa or Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. Does that seem fair in our human context? No way! But that's what's part of what makes God so cool. None of us actually deserve the love and the grace that God gives us. If it were only up to us, none of us would actually make it. We would not deserve it. In reality, we are all the laborers who show up last. We are all Nineveh, that city that Jonah has to go to. And we are all Jonah, because let's be real, Jonah is actually kind of a big old jerk in this story. But guess what? God still shows up for us. God gives us more love and grace than we deserve. And it may not seem fair, but luckily for us, we've got a God that doesn't play by our rules.